A while back, I did a video on the reasons why you might be giving up too many big ends. While learning how to play defense is important, there's nothing more fun than scoring a bunch of points in a hurry. Big ends can help us get into dominant positions early in the game, get us back into games we've fallen behind in, or put away a game in the late ends. Many new skips find it hard to consistently put together big ends, and can have trouble even building ends of 2 points or more with the hammer on a regular basis. Let's take a look at 5 tips you can use to score more big ends in your games. Number 1. Throw less weight. One of the general rules of thumb when it comes to curling strategy is that the farther behind you are on the scoreboard, the less weight you should be throwing. Most people learn this to mean that when they're winning, they should throw more hits, and when they're losing, they should throw more guards. That's all true, but you can also think about this concept even when it comes to just planning your hits. When you're way ahead and you want to play defense, it makes sense to throw normal and peel weight hits to remove as many rocks as possible. But when you're trying to score points, you want to make sure you keep your rocks in play. Sometimes, you might even be happy if your opponent's rocks stay, especially in the back of the house. When you're trying to score a big end with hammer, you may still need to throw hits sometimes. When you do, consider calling for hack or board weight more often than control weight or higher, unless bigger weight is absolutely necessary to make your shot. You'll see more of your rocks stick around, create more potential jams, and generally keep more rocks in play, all of which will help you score more points. Number 2, use more guards. As we always say, if you want to score points, you're going to need guards. When you have the hammer and are looking to score multiple points, that means putting up at least one corner guard. If you're really desperate, you might even be looking to throw 2 or more as the end goes on. However, it's not just about throwing these guards, you also have to use them. Many new skips know they're supposed to throw a corner guard with hammer, but then get sucked into playing in the forefoot immediately. If you're in a situation where you know you want to throw that corner guard, make sure you go around it. It's usually easier to do this early in the end, but don't forget about your corner guard later on either. At the club level, skips will rarely peel a corner guard, so if you slip 2 or more rocks behind one, you'll definitely be putting a big end in play. Number 3, don't throw center guards. On the other hand, you don't want to be throwing centerline guards with the hammer. Yes, we've all been in the position where we have a rock in the top 4, and we know our opponents are going to hit it. In most cases, it's better to try setting up an end elsewhere, even if it means the non-hammer team gets to hit that beautiful rock. To understand why, we need to think about the scoring area. When we throw a centerline guard, we're giving the non-hammer team a chance to draw down to us, or really just anywhere around that center guard, and immediately close down most of the house. When this happens, it leaves us with very little room to fit more counting rocks. Worse still, if the other team manages to get rid of our counter with a downweight hit, or a run back, or if they manage to throw a great draw that outcounts us, our centerline guard will have just become our worst enemy. Remember, the hammer team almost always wants the house as open as possible. There are rare occasions late in an end where a centerline guard is correct with the hammer. Usually when we're guarding 2 or 3 rocks on or near the button, and that often happens on our first skip rock. But if you want to score multiple points with the hammer, you should never be guarding 1 rock in the center of the ice early in an end. Number 4, don't worry about shot rock. This is kinda related to the last point, at least in terms of the mentality that causes skips to make this mistake. If the other team is counting when it's our turn to throw, our first instinct is usually to hit that rock so we can count instead. If we're already counting, we sometimes think we need to immediately guard that rock in order to protect it. However, scoring big ends isn't about being the team with a counter during the middle of the end. Unless your opponents make a lot of mistakes, you'll have to take some chances to build an end, and that often means ignoring your opponent's counter early on and drawing around a guard instead. How far you go with this idea depends on how badly you need to score, and how good the end is looking for you. At some point, you will need to get rid of that counter, of course. If you wait too long, your opponent may guard it multiple times, and now it may be very difficult to deal with. But scoring multiple points sometimes means taking risks. If you're behind late in the game, you can't be hitting every time your opponent sits shot. Make sure you've done enough to give yourself a chance at scoring the points you need before you go back to deal with your opponent's rocks. Number 5, use the whole house. It's hard to build a big end when all your rocks are bunched together. Not only does this make you vulnerable to doubles or other big hits, it can also leave pockets where your opponents can place rocks that will then be difficult to get rid of. Instead of bunching your rocks or throwing the so-called counting guards, be inclined to split the house when possible. The more distance between your rocks, the harder it will be for your opponent to get rid of multiple stones or find somewhere effective to hide or freeze. Sure, if you have just one great corner guard, it's fine to go around it multiple times. But if you're sitting one counter on a wing and the house is otherwise open, the best thing you can do is play to the other side of the house. It's not fancy or exciting, but it's usually the best way to set up a score of 2 or more. Those are 5 tips for scoring more big ends with the hammer. Do you have any other advice for new skips who want to put up more crooked numbers on the scoreboard? Be sure to leave a comment below and let everyone know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you want to financially support Chess on Ice, be sure to check out my Patreon, where you can get a number of great benefits, like seeing your name in the credits of these videos. Thanks again for watching, and good curling!